Hey guys, Landon is back with another video. Today we're out ripping on this week's Begode model, the T4. I had the day to kill in Vancouver, so I went over to EV's and Bradley was gracious enough to lend me this wheel for testing purposes. So I'm going to give you a few thoughts on it, so if that interests you, stick around. And just to be clear, this is not a review. This is just a quick thoughts. I believe this is the very wheel that went on the EV's US tour recently and got passed around quite a bit, so it has a few battle wounds. For those of you who haven't been able to keep up with the seemingly endless Begode releases lately, I'll give you a few specs of the Begode T4. So it has a top speed of 60 kilometers an hour. It has a 2500 watt hollow bore motor. It has an 1800 watt hour battery with the Samsung 50E21700 cells. It has suspension with adjustable dampening. It's a little air shock, and it costs around 3,300 Canadian pesos. Now, right off the bat, I just want to say how nice this wheel actually rides. It kind of reminds me of a V11, but obviously it has the 16-inch wheel. I feel like the suspension is better on this one than the Master, which I did have some time with. And the slider mechanism is super smooth. So the suspension, although it was kind of squishy for me, I didn't have time to play with the air chamber. It was working well. If I had to compare this wheel to anything right now, I would say it would probably be the V11 as its closest kind of feeling wheel. Yeah, I don't think it feels like an S18, and it only does 60 kilometers an hour, so there's not a lot of other wheels in that category right now, which I think is a real sweet spot for the market personally. During this ride, I tried to take it on as much different kinds of terrain as I could in the limited time I had, and there was also not a ton of battery on it, so I did not do an acceleration test for fear of face planting. And I was also made aware that this is the only wheel they have without any parts to fix it as of yet. I did do some braking, and the braking felt really nice, probably because it's a 16-inch wheel. I did a little bit of off-roading. I mean, in the loosest sense of the word, I just found some routes and stuff I could get the suspension working. I did a little bit of backwards riding, and that was really nice. It idles super nice. I did some stairs, as many stairs as I could. It does bottom out fairly easily. Obviously, again, I didn't adjust the air chamber, but I do not feel like there is a ton of travel in that particular shock, but maybe that's just because I've been riding the S22 lately. I'm not sure which market Begode is really going after with this, but it has a CST street tire. I'm not sure if this is the one that you're gonna get when you buy it, but this was the one on this particular machine. And yeah, it was kind of like your regular like on-road CST tire, which handles really nice, but obviously it's not going to be very good off-road. The trolley handle is pretty good. It seems to do the job, and it's not in a weird place like the S22. I played around with it a bit and I couldn't find anything that I was too upset with, other than it kind of goes up halfway, so you have to like click it twice to get it to go down. That might be like a lift switch thing, I'm not sure, but I wasn't super stoked on that portion of it. But yeah, trolley handle was good. I did some seated riding, and although it's a long ways down, you can do it. I'm 5'10". If I own this wheel, it probably wouldn't be something I'd do though. I believe this wheel comes with a 5 amp charger, and there are 2 charge ports underneath the handle. If you get another charger, I believe the charge time goes down to 2 or 2.5 hours, which is pretty good. One thing I will say is I like the fact that the tire is exposed all the way around and not covered up in paneling like the V11 and many other wheels. So super nice, the fact that probably everything you're going to hit is going to hit your tire and not the frame or paneling. The pedals are like about as plain as you can get for EUC pedals. They're just basically blocks with some grip tape. There's no honeycomb sweetness, there's no sweet spikes, so nothing really to report here. I tested the headlights and they definitely turned on when I pressed the button, so that's cool, but it was daylight so I couldn't really tell how bright they were. But yeah, if you press it once, it's just headlights, and if you press it twice, it does a cool flashing pattern, which is fun if you only want to see half the time. The brake lights were super flimsy and loose. Yeah, typical Begode quality there on the taillights. They also weren't very bright, and I couldn't seem to get them to activate when I was hitting the brakes. Maybe I just wasn't going fast enough, I'm not sure, but they were just kind of static lights. The valve for the air shock was actually in a really nice place, easy to get to. Same with the dampening knob, so that's nice. You don't have to have any weird extensions to get your pump in there. There is a mud flap on the T4, and it's on a little hinge. So it's nice, it comes with it, and it's pretty flexible, and it just comes off with a couple of bolts if you break it. We can talk about the screen. It definitely has nice information in there. Unfortunately, in the daylight, it was too dim. I had a really difficult time seeing it under kind of regular light. Might be better at night, but I mostly ride in the day, and I did struggle trying to see the information on it. Another thing I should mention is it does not have a kickstand from what I can see. So you have to lean it against a wall or set it down when you're done using it, which is kind of annoying because I think most wheels now come with kickstands and they are pretty handy. This wheel was passed around a lot, but it only has 400 or so kilometers on it, and the pads are literally disintegrating. I'm not sure what happened to it, but I don't feel like these pads are very durable, and they kind of like encompass the whole area of the wheel. So that would be a big concern for me in terms of the longevity of the entire pad, because I mean the pad's up top and it's also on the sides, right? I'm also not a big fan of these pads. These pads are similar to the Masters, and I personally just don't like the movement and just the feeling I get from them. I prefer the Clark pad style, so I don't know. You have to leave in the comments maybe if you can easily remove these and add Clark pads or not, because I feel like they're just like such a part of the wheel, but hopefully you can change them if you don't like them. Another thing I really don't like is the flimsy ass plastic surrounding the battery. That's like a no-go for me. I think it was the same on the Master, but yeah, I can literally like push it in with my finger. I can't imagine it surviving anything. There's also just a bunch of exposed wiring, and the whole layout of where things go seems kind of janky in my opinion. The wires going into the battery and the ceiling around that look pretty questionable. And so yeah, that's kind of where I'm left with this particular wheel. I like the way Begode wheels ride, but the fact of the matter is they're releasing wheels way too quickly. They're not concerned about safety yet for whatever reason. They're not focusing on making less wheels of more quality instead of just pumping out new models all the time. And for me as a consumer, I would be concerned about that, because if you buy this T4, are you going to have parts in 3 months down the road, 6 months down the road, a year down the road? This thing might be obsolete by the time you even get it. So for me, I would say go for the V11 because you can get parts for it, and there's like people with 50,000 kilometers on them. They do their job pretty well, and they're in the same kind of category in price. But yeah, I think a suspension wheel in this category is definitely a sweet spot because you get that speed and range, but it's not crazy heavy, so it kind of has the portability factor, which we all kind of, the reason why we got into EUCs in the first place, at least for me, was the portability. So I really like these categories of wheels, and I hope there's more research and development into this category once the race to the top gets boring. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it was informative at least a little bit. Like I said, I didn't ride it for a ton, so I'm no expert on it, but those were just my initial reactions after riding the wheel. But yeah, feel free to comment, like, subscribe, all that sweet stuff, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.